So it indeed is my pleasure and an honor to, in fact, introduce Mr. Markand Dave, who would be giving us a talk on the 1929 airmail stamps of India. He's, of course, a very eminent philatelist with a special interest in India's classic issues, from the 1854 two-liner stamps to the 1929 airmail series and the unique rocket mails of India. His five-frame exhibit on the rocket mails of India recently won a prestigious gold medal. I open the floor to Mr. Markand Dave, and we look forward to this enlightening talk from your side. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. And today I'm going to talk on this subject of the 1929 Airmail Stamps of India. Thank you, the Airmail Society, for inviting me to do this presentation today. While the Airmail Society is mainly focused with the postal history of the rates, routes, and the airmails, okay, where I have selected a little different subject, and I'm more focused on these six stamps, which was issued in 1929. And I'm very much grateful that still it's a bit traditional thing, but they consider this and they always inspire me and encourage me in promoting this subject. And today we are going to discuss some important things here. And here I start with what you will see in this presentation today. So we will see some of the important artist sketches, the original designs, some, I'm not saying all, and I will clear why I'm saying some. Then the basic elements of the stamp design, that how the stamp was designed. Then we will see the postal notices and the circulars. We'll also see the first day covers of 4th November and 20th December, and I will clarify why we have two different first day covers. And then I will go in a little extra detail with the techniques, how to identify the position without a complete sheet. Unfortunately, when I started the study, and even till today, I am not able to locate a single complete sheet of any of the denomination, which I am looking very desperately, and I have requested many dealer friends and philatelists that get me and find me a brown gum, yellow gum, black gum, no gum, whatever the condition, but just for my study, I need a complete sheet. However, I have some large multiples, and the multiples are very helpful, which you will see in my next slides, but there are no complete sheets. So that is the reason I'm highlighting these techniques. And then my favorite errors and the positions on the sheet. So I begin the story with this nice, beautiful piece, which was a part of the drawing competition. Yes, we had a drawing competition for this stamp in India. And we have a lot of information here about the entries. And on the top left, you can see that the very first entry came from Mr. Stephen Smith. Okay, and his code word for his drawing was FAY, Fay. And we will also talk about what was Fay. And then we have several other people here. And on the bottom right, we have the dates that which serial numbers were received by the Nasik printing press, on which dates. And we have some general conditions on the top, on the right side, the extreme right. In the center, what we are seeing, there is a drawing which was submitted by the chief engraver T. Archer. Okay, and now we discuss the basic elements of the stamps. So stamp, we will look in a minute, and that is, there are three main things. And I have a huge archive file from the National Archives of New Delhi. And it is very interesting reading and going through it. And one day I realized that in one of the correspondence, there was a question arised. They asked the India office, I mean the Nasik printing, that from where the portrait of the King George V is derived, and in which they have replied that the King's portrait is derived from the present issue of 5 rupees banknote. So that is element number one. In one of the another correspondence, there is a discussion, not sort of question sort of thing, but it says that the landscape, which is in the background of the stamp, that is the landscape, is one of the lake near Bombay. And obviously, the third thing is the main element, the aircraft, and that is the Havilland DH-66, the Hercules one, and that's how the entire stamp was designed. Now, particularly when we come to this piece, it was offered to me all the way back in 2007-8, and I rejected the offer, considering it as just a souvenir or a Cinderella, which later, obviously, I paid high price and I acquired it and added it in my collection when I understood it, when I realized what is the meaning of the Fay, F-A-Y, which is written here on the bottom right of the drawing. On the reverse, we have signature of Stephen Smith, and the drawing he submitted on the 1st August of 1928, which is getting tallied with the list published by the National Archives in New Delhi. So it matches with the official record. And how I realized and how I reached to the conclusion that this blue drawing is Stephen Smith's original work, it is coming from this letter, and this letter I found in the Museum of Communication in Switzerland, GIN, in Bern, and here Stephen Smith is writing to Dr. Robert Paganini. The government of India intend issuing airmail stamps in the near future, and I have pleasure in enclosing here with 2 photographs of the design I have submitted to government. On the bottom left, extreme bottom left, you can see that Smith made a note that my nom de plume, Fay. This is on the right bottom corner of each photograph. So from here, I realized that this is Stephen Smith's artwork. Now we will see some of the other important designs and the alterations. The bottom left, we see, and if we match it with the top left, we can see that the Gateway of India, this element, is being replaced with this map. And that map is coming from another drawing, which is on the far right side. So I have highlighted with the arrow, and obviously the one on the top left is almost similar. It's a reproduction of the one which is on the top right, and that is the basic design with all the addition with the Chinese ink, Chinese white, and all that. In the center, we have the ornaments which were obviously prepared by Archer, and we can see his signature here near the Gateway of India, again under the pencil drawing of Gateway of India, and a little part impression next to this ornamental pillar. And we have the airmail ribbon. These all objects are separate and pasted on one big card. And yeah, now we talk about the lake, and what I believe, I'm not saying that this is the Vehad Lake, but I have seen many lakes. There are some nice lakes around Mumbai, and I found this postcard of Vehad Lake, which was one of the popular lake, and for that reason, I believe that it could be Vehad Lake. Now we call it Vihar Lake as well. There are 2 pronunciations. This is one which is printed on the postcard is a more British pronunciation. And we can see in the landscape the mountains, the lake, and the palm trees. And from those trees only we have this treetop missing variety. So out of this 77 entries, Mr. Grant was the winner, G. Grant, with his one of the entry, and which was number 38. However, Grant participated with 2 entries. So the entry which he secured the prize was number 38. And there was another entry, number 66 by G. Grant, and the nom de plume was best try. So on a lighter note, what I say is that the best try failed. However, the luck at last worked very well. This is the original sketch of G. Grant. Underneath, he wrote, "This is my original rough sketch," and then he signed in different ink, black ink, we can see Grant. Later, on the reverse side, later he presented this drawing to Mr. Smith, and he again signed. And as usual, Mr. Smith also signed and acknowledged the drawing on 9th December 1929. And this is the drawing from serial number 38. Now, the drawing competition was over. They finalized the design, blah, blah, blah. And now is the time to release the stamp. So they came up with the postal notice. And there is interesting story that they have postponed it several times. So the first one came on 5th September by saying that they are going to issue the stamps on 1st October 1929. They came up with another notice on 20th September, okay, before 1st October, obviously, that they are going to release the stamp now on 1st November, which we can see here, but that didn't happen as well. Interestingly, they came up with one circular as well, that the stamp will be available on 1st November, and in which they clarified that these stamps will not be recognized in payment of postal charges for the transmission of articles by routes other than airmail. So you can use it for only air and not for any other purpose. So that is one interesting thing. And finally, on 1st October, they came up with the final postal notice, which I call a final postal notice, that the stamps will be available on 4th November. And the good news is that they had all these 5 stamps on 4th November. And here we can see all stamps are signed by designer in the margin area, signed by G. Grant. So we had 3 annas, 4 annas, 6 annas, 8 and 12 annas on 4th November, and here is the first day cover. Interestingly, this cover is sent by Stephen Smith to one of his friend in England, and the name of the person is Gertrude Collins, and Stephen fired a rocket in 1938 with the same name, Gertrude Collins. So I have used this rocket label. However, it has nothing to do with in my airmail exhibit, but in my airmail exhibit, I have used this label to connect the story that later Stephen Smith fired a rocket number 165 with Gertrude Collins' name. The cover is signed by the designer, G. Grant, on the back, and Stephen Smith as well. And this is a registered cover of 4th November. Now, those 5 values were for international rates. On 20th December, okay, they issued a 2 anna stamp for domestic airmail rate because they wanted to strengthen the domestic airmail service as well. So this circular was typed on 10th December but dated 11th December, saying that the domestic airmail stamp of 2 annas will be available from 20th December. And here is a first day cover, again signed by the designer on the top margin area, addressed to Stephen Smith. On this subject, I have published a book called The 1929 Airmail Stamps of India. 1,000 copies were printed in 2015, and within 1 year, most of the copies were sold, in which you can see that there are nearly 225 errors are listed, 76 in 2 annas, 45 in 3 annas, 16 in 4 annas, 28 in 6 annas, 32 in 8 annas, and 28 errors in 12 annas, where you can see that the 2 anna scores with the highest number of errors and varieties with 76. And the reason is that because of it was the 2 annas was the rate for domestic airmail, and several printings were made. Okay, the number of printings. And for that reason, you see one variety particularly on one position at a time, and later it disappears. So maybe during the process, the Nasik press have rectified the plate or whatever. Now, as I made a clear statement, there is no complete sheet. But in case if does exist, or just to make it more visual, I have prepared this digital reconstruction here. It's a 12 into 12 format, 144 stamps in one sheet, and it has guide marks in the margin areas, which helps a lot, okay, to understand the position and identify the position. So how the guide mark looks like. So the one, okay, which is falling, if you follow my cursor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, from the top side, okay, vertically, that guide mark falls on the top side of the margin area, okay, on row 6 near column 12. Similarly on the left side as well. And the one which is falling on the bottom, that is on row 7. We'll see some more. So here you can see the top margin area, the left margin area, and the guide mark which is falling on the top left side of the margin area of the stamp, and that is row 6. And this is, so there are total 4 guide marks, 2 on the left and 2 on the right. Here we will see some more guide marks. So this is a little understanding the guide marks chapter thing. So you can better understand that what exactly the guide marks are. And if you find any position somewhere near to the guide marks, you can reach to the conclusion that where exactly they belongs to, in which position, I mean. Here we have a nice block, okay, with the Kuwait overprint. So these are the upper and lower guide mark on the left side of the margin area, and same thing on the right side. And a part of a set was overprinted with Kuwait, and since we exhibit in a traditional class, whatever the overprints, whatever we can put it into that exhibit, and part of set was overprinted, a supply was sent to Kuwait, and we have numbers of 2 annas, 3 annas, and 4 annas, and dates of every issue. But unfortunately for the 6 annas, I am still looking at how many seats and what was the quantity they printed. And now we talk about the 3 listed varieties in the Stanley Gibbons and Scott catalog. So the first is in 3 annas, that is the Q, very popular one. Q for O in postage, and that is SG221A. The second one is the treetop missing variety, and the third one is reverse serif variety. Because of my book, now they have listed 2, however, in total 4 varieties, okay, because they have listed under India and Kuwait as well. And that is the first 3 annas varieties. Is the second I of India is becoming like a numeral 1. Okay, so for India section is SG221B, and for Kuwait 32B. The same thing with this ARC variety, which is in 6 annas, passing from the T of the postage, ending all the way and crossing the whole entire stamp by L of mail. And the same thing is happening in Kuwait as well. So they have listed under Kuwait section. And here we will see some of my favorite varieties. So the first one on the top left, that is the row 1 and column 1, that is my type 23. And now you can see that why I call it that it is falling on row 1 and column 1, because of this margin area. Okay. Similarly, the type 73 on the larger block on the right side, okay, that is on row 10 and column 11. So obviously you can see why it is row 10, the bottom is 12, 11 and 10, and this is row 12, so sorry, column 12, so this is column 11. And this how I struggle in absence of the complete sheet to find the positions. This stamp I had observed in the Royal Collection, so it was a different intention when I was invited to view the Royal Philatelic Collection in 2013. But this stamp with this variety, numeral 1 variety, sits in Royal Collection, and I had an opportunity to meet Honorable Michael Safi. He was the keeper of the Royal Collection at that time, and I told him that this stamp has this variety. And later in 2015, I published my book, and you can see here the position and that is the row 1 and column 12. The numeral 1 looks like, which is now listed in Stanley Gibbons. Okay, and then we have more varieties. Here we will see the one in the center, the block of 4, it has a spoke variety, this extra spoke, okay, which is unrecorded in my book, but it falls on row 12, and I put a question mark in the column because I have nothing in the on the left margin or right margin of the block, so I don't know where exactly this block falls on the complete sheet. But then I have another variety which is from my book, type 12 in 3 annas, and it falls on the row 3 and column 2, and which you can see because of this margin on the top and in the left area, we can say that it is row 3 and column 2. And that is a pearl flow before the M of male. Now this is very interesting. The Q variety is very popular, and I would like to tell all of my friends who are attending this presentation today that whenever you see a known variety in large multiple, look very carefully in the surrounding stems. If you find any another variety which is constant, then you are lucky enough, because if the first is proven with the position, you don't need to prove the second position. Same case. So Q, the position is known, it is listed, it is recorded in Stanley Gibbons catalog that the Q is happening on row 11 in column 4. Underneath the Q variety, there is a little crack in the plate, and it looks like a vertical dash above R of air, okay? And this variety falls exactly under the Q variety, and for that reason, it is on row 12 and column 4. So simple. And I have known examples of this variety without Kuwait overprint as well. But here I am showing a Kuwait Q variety, which is extremely rare. So I'm trying to serve two purposes at a time. I'm sure you will be able to see this variety more beautifully and comfortably here in this Zoom image. And I have discovered this Q variety on a cover as well with the Kuwait overprint, which was really quite challenging. And if you are struggling to see, it was difficult to reproduce this, but I used my mobile phone LED light, so you can see the Q variety with the Kuwait overprint on cover going to United States. And when it comes to the overprints, the Kuwait, not many, but there are some overprints. Particularly, one has to be very careful with this 4 anna stamps, which is quite expensive. So there are forged overprints. Okay, so I'm showing two examples, one on left 4 annas, one on right 6 annas, and the genuine overprint underneath on 6 annas. So what is the difference? This is grayish black, the forged one. Okay, the 1, 2 on the top, the two stamps on the top, 4 annas and 6 annas. And if you see the bottom stamp and try to match that, it has a sharp black overprint, and the one on the top, the two stamps, has a little bold and grayish black overprint. This is what I'm talking about. Now we will see another variety, that is the basic stamp printed double. And so far it is listed under Kuwait only. Okay, and this is the basic stamp is printed double, and the very first immediate reaction, you can see it from the numeral value 3. In the background, you can see there are two images. One is dark and one is lighter. And I think they would have gone for a second run because the ink was so light, so they printed the same sheet again. And that is the reason we have this beautiful error. And I am fortunate enough to have two used examples. Both are printed double, the basic stamp, on a large part of envelope from Kuwait. And here I have the same variety, which is not listed under India section for some reason so far. And this is also printed double, which you can, from the numeral 3, if you focus there, you can see the two images clearly. But Stanley Gibbons has an argument when I request them to register more of my varieties. They say, you have done a specialized research and you have came up with some 225 errors. So whatever best we can, we already accommodated, but let it remain as it is. Okay, now we are talking about the shades. When it comes to any of the shades in any denomination of this Airmill series 6 stamps, 4 annas stands outstanding because the 4 annas has number of shades varieties, particularly this 4, and sometimes you will confuse yourself whether it is 6 annas or 4 annas, particularly when you see the one on the top right. So 4 anna has the maximum number of shades varieties. Okay, we see some more varieties. The broken frame under the O and S of postage, and we can easily say that that's row 12 because of the margin on the left and on bottom, and column 1. Again, the same thing here, row 11 and column 12, a very spectacular pearl flow over I of India, and this both of these errors exist without Kuwait overprint as well. And now we are going to discuss about this ARC variety, which I discussed that now it is listed in Stanley Gibbons. So when I discovered it in the first instance, I was wondering that it's just a one variety. But when I came across with this block, and particularly with this guide mark, in the margin area, so I reached to the conclusion and find out the position also that where exactly the error is happening. And the error is happening on row 7 of column 12. But the error is not only on one stamp, it is crossing on all the way on the top stamp, affecting the top stamp as well as the bottom stamp. So you can see it's starting from here and going all the way to the 6th row stamp and cutting the bottom ribbon of the annas. So it is a variety which is affecting 3 stamps. Another spectacular flaw on the bottom loop of the numeral 8 here in the value tablet, and because of the left margin and the bottom margin, it confirms the position row 12 and column 1. Same case like I discussed about the Q variety. Whenever you see one variety and if you have a multiple, look into the surrounding stems. And I have nearly 15 vertical pair of treetop missing variety, and every single pair has a little dash on the bottom stem in between the I and L of male, which you can see here in the illustrations. And in the end, we have 12 annas, the high value. And I had all these 3 varieties which are illustrated on the right, tag number 25, 28, and 26. This block is responsible and was very helpful to find out the positions of all these 3 beautiful varieties. The first one on the top variety, it has some pearls between the A of India and P of postage, and then there are broken lines behind the king's portrait, and we have a large plate scratch, okay, just crossing the floral ornament and passing through the I and D all the way to I, second I of India, and we have all the positions here. Because I collect in a traditional way, so we also had the airmail envelopes with the same design. Okay, and this is the reduced rate one, 7.5 annas. The original was 8 annas, but I paid an attention to those as well, and we are lucky enough that we have one variety, the dot between A and I in the word air, and it happens on the normal envelope as well as the reduced rate envelope. Here is the first day cover with the same variety, A.IR from 1st May 1930. And this is the only variety I have recorded in this particular stationery envelope. And this is the world's first stationery airmail postcard. Okay. So we had the 1911 world's first airmail in India, and we are also responsible to produce a stationary postcard in India in the whole world, and that was with the four annas value. And it comes usually in two variants. So this is the basic variant, and this is the first day usage of that world's first airmail postcard. So when it went to the post office, immediately the the bureaucrat or the clerk, whoever was working there, put a mark insufficiently paid for transmission by airmail. But one of his senior colleague would have pointed out the mistake. Gentlemen, wait. It's a very new thing. It's world's first airmail postcard. So please strike it out. So he struck it out with the crayon, and he would have been informed that it is good to go, and it's a 4 annas rate, and it's a genuine one. So in the end, I'm going to show you this latest usage of these 6 stamps used in Kuwait. Unfortunately, fortunately, I would say, without the Kuwait overprint, looks very flat-lick from the front, and the back I have reproduced on the right side, but it is not flat-lick indeed, and it is without Kuwait overprint, correct postage rate, 3.5 annas for surface, 29 for air fee, 3 for registration, and that's how the whole story. And I'm very much thankful to the late Mr. H.C. Mehta for helping me in describing this cover. And in the beginning, I told you that what I'm going to tell you today, I have told you, and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much indeed. And this is for those. Today, you will have an opportunity to interact with me and ask questions, but this is for those who will be watching our recording on the Havase Air channel, okay, and have some questions in future. They can simply point to any of the QR code, or I need to replace this logo of T to X now, thanks to Mr. Elon Musk. So I have 3 social media QR codes, and you can point your cursor to any of the QR and reach to me. Thank you very much indeed. And any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Mr. Dave, thank you so much for your insights and your deep, in-depth study. We've really absolutely mesmerized.